But first, we break down what to expect at the Kavanaugh confirmation hearing beginning tomorrow. For that and more, we're joined by our Politics Monday team of Tamara Keith of NPR and Amy Walter of the Cook Political Report. Welcome to you both. Folks, when folks turn in to watch on PBS the hearings tomorrow, Tamara, what can they expect?
Well, tomorrow there will be a lot of speeches. It is opening statement day, so each senator on the Judiciary Committee gets 10 minutes. There will also be people introducing Brett Kavanaugh. And then finally, at the very end, after this long day of speeches, Brett Kavanaugh himself will give an opening statement. That's what he's been working on for the last little while. Before that, he had done sort of mock hearings with senators and others to practice, to get ready to build the stamina for what is to come on Wednesday and Thursday, which is 30 minutes per senator asking him questions.
Is there any drama in this?
Well, so first off, you have to say that people who are up for Supreme Court positions get to these hearings, and their goal is to say as little as humanly possible about how they could possibly rule on anything. That's sort of the lesson. That's the way this has developed in the last couple of decades, and it means that these hearings in some ways have gotten kind of boring. And in terms of whether Brett Kavanaugh is going to be confirmed, the votes are there. If Republicans hang together, which it seems like they will, the votes are there as long as he has a solid hearing.
Yeah, the drama, too, becomes you have a number of people on the committee, especially Democrats, who, I don't know, may be interested in running in 2020. This is a good opportunity for them to, in front of a national audience, sort of show their chops, maybe give a statement that's so pithy that gets them on national broadcasts. You have some, like Senator Dianne Feinstein, who would have been challenged by her left. So she's also going to probably make some pretty strong statements. But overall, I think Tamara put it very well, that the drama really, it comes down to either something that we don't know about that comes out, that he says something or something is raised there that really throws this into question. But the bottom line is the number 51. Republicans have 51 seats. They will soon. We're awaiting Governor Ducey from Arizona appointing a senator to fill the late Senator John McCain's seat. So there would be 51 Republican votes. No Republicans look like they, at this point, oppose him. Republicans don't need any Democrats, that means, in order to push this nomination over the finish line.
So, Amy, not only in the committee hearings, but also once it moves to the Senate floor, what can Democrats do?
All right, well, that's been the question all along, right? How can we do something about this? And there have been all sorts of theories about maybe you should try to shut down the hearings or slow walk the hearings. The bottom line is they don't have the votes. They are in the minority, and when you're in the minority, you don't have the power. Now, there was a time when being in the minority didn't give you power on judicial appointments. But in 2013, Democrats who were then in the majority, frustrated by Republicans slow walking or blocking Obama's appointments to the lower courts, unleashed what was called the nuclear option, saying you only need a majority in order to put judicial nominations through. And at that time, Republicans said, be careful. This is going to have bigger consequences. And look, lo and behold, yes, Republicans came in and said, oh, you know what? I guess we don't need filibusters for the Supreme Court either.
Right. Be careful what you wish for. Yeah. And that's where we are. And of course, we're here in part also because Mitch McConnell held open that seat, held open the seat that Merrick Garland was nominated to through the presidential election. And that's how President Trump has too. And some could argue that that is one of the ways that President Trump won, is that conservatives and especially evangelicals cared so much about that seat that they were motivated to vote for him.
Tam, we've got the last primaries coming up this month. We've got 5 overall, and in 4 of them, there are Democrats challenging Democrats, insurgent Democrats challenging incumbents, as the party still tries to figure out who they are after 2016. What should we be looking for in those contests?
I think that it would be oversimplifying it to say it's the Bernie Kratz versus the Hillary Kratz. I think that that is a mistake. There are other really interesting dynamics, including racial dynamics, where some of these candidates who have won, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she was challenging in in a district that was heavily Latino, she was challenging a big Irish guy, and she won. In the Massachusetts race, there's a similar discussion about representation taking place.
Yeah, that's been the interesting thing about the primaries thus far. So we are here at the end, is there hasn't been really one theme that's tied all of these together. In fact, there have been very few upsets overall. We're supposedly in this anti-establishment era, and yet only 3 House incumbents have lost their primaries, 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat that Tam mentioned. The one thread that is pretty consistent in the Democratic primaries, at least, is the success of women. And when we look at all the races that don't include an incumbent, but there's a man and a woman running for a Democratic nomination, women have won almost 60% of those primaries. So being a woman in a primary is probably the most important thing, much more so than ideology or who's supporting you or anything else. And in fact, I think that's what's really been helpful, quite frankly, to Democrats this year, is the fact that many of their red state Democrats who've been voting as moderates did not get challenged from the left in their primaries, unlike many Republicans back in the 2010 year. That was the Republicans' big year, who were being challenged from the right and from the sort of anti-establishment, we need to throw over the card table, and they knocked a lot of those establishment people off. That hasn't happened on the Democratic side.
We've got a little bit of time left. We had over the weekend the final services for John McCain. On particularly the service at the Washington Cathedral, a lot of people, most notably his daughter Meghan, lamenting what had passed. Not just this great man, but also the spirit that he represented had passed. Is that likely to change? Is that likely to echo in some of these members' ears and thoughts as we move forward?
On the eve of the midterms, I mean, I don't mean to be cynical, but in some ways, that memorial service was a memorial for a time of bipartisanship and a spirit that passed a long time ago, passed well before John McCain.
Yeah, and that it is the bottom line is the incentive structure in Washington now does not reward that. It's not, politics is not that complicated. People do things that if they get some sort of reward for it. And if voters said, you know what, I think compromise is the most important asset that somebody can bring to the table, and I'm only going to vote for people who show bipartisanship and compromise, then we would likely get different incumbent, we'd likely get a different Congress. But unless or until primary voters decide that's an important value, the values that we have now, the zero-sum politics, that's going to continue.
And the hilarious thing is that the public, everybody says, I just want Congress to get things done. I want them to work with each other. And then they're like, but I hate the other party.
Right.
They're the worst.
But don't work with that person.
Yeah.
And don't ever agree with so-and-so. Yeah.
Amy Walter, Tamara Keith, thank you very much.
You're welcome.